shot his wife as she was cleaning up the kitchen after lunch. When his 10-year-old son came to investigate the commotion, the father shot him too. His 6-year-old daughter had the good sense to hide in the bathroom, but reports suggest he lured her out by telling her it was just a game. The girl was found shot once in the chest from point-blank range. The mother, who he shot in the stomach, was pregnant at the time. Police arriving on scene after neighbors called 911 found the father in his car listening to the radio.
Welcome back to another episode of the Main Quest podcast. This is, of course, the #1 retro gaming podcast with more acidic spit than a radicalized 4chan user. This is episode 113 on Super Metroid, and I am your host, Keith. This is the final episode of this year's Ghoulcade, and I am really bummed to see it go. This is it. I love putting these things together every October, even if I have to stretch the theme a little bit to get these games to fit in. But hey, if you want to keep the spooky vibes going, Patreon's got you covered. For just $1, you'll get bonus reviews, like on the one I'm writing for Dredge. And you get to vote on stuff that I can cover in the future. And you get extra entries for Listener Request Month, which is going to be coming up very soon. Man, time flies. And at the $3 tier, there's even more stuff. A deep dive on episode redacted, and a roundtable discussion where some friends and I nerd out about heavy metal and video games. Don't worry, we didn't completely alienate the patrons on that one. And of course, that's all on top of past spooky exclusives, like the Earthbound Halloween hack that I did with B. Ross from Super Garbage Day. There's an episode on Castlevania: Symphony of the Night, and of course, all of the old Main Quest matinee movie episodes are all waiting for you to dig back up from the grave, like the ones we did on Resident Evil and Silent Hill and Doom, perhaps. Links in the show notes, or if you're particular, it is patreon.com/the main quest. Now, tonight's episode is stacked. If you already missed Matt Storm, don't worry, they're back. Chris Dominguez is back as well for a second time this year, and it was important for me to get both perspectives because there's no objective way I can actually talk about Super Metroid. This conversation goes pretty hard. A lot of opinions that are all over the place, a lot of throat grabbing, and somehow I made it out alive to get this episode to your feet. So with that said, enjoy this episode on Super Metroid.
Interacting with Chris. I've listened to many a podcast with you on, but not had the pleasure of podcasting with you yet.
I think we've interacted on either Twitter when Twitter was still okay and Blue Sky.
Yes. Yeah, we definitely chatted a bit, but we've not podcasted together yet.
Yeah.
Well, look at this. This is beautiful. I love this.
Keith, always bringing people together.
Oh, yeah.
That's what I'm told. Once told I was like the Nick Fury of our community.
Mm-hmm. That's great.
Yeah, let's get started, I guess. I have a lot of notes on the development history and everything, so I guess we can just roll right into this as I tend to do. A spaceship crashed nearby, and while I was pillaging the wreckage for usable tech, I found a bunch of pods that had people stuck in cryosleep. And unfortunately, most of the crew perished in the crash. It's pretty terrible. But I did find 2 podcasters that survived. My first guest, it reads on his ID badge that he's from a podcast called A Novel Console, and also does some pillaging of his own at consoles and stuff. It says here, Quartermaster Chris Dominguez.
Quartermaster. That's why we crashed.
Welcome back to life, and welcome back to the show.
Thank you. I kind of wish I would have stayed dead. Eternal sleep sounds amazing.
And yet somehow it would still never be enough sleep.
Right? Like, I'm pretty sure we could all sleep for a couple thousand years and we will wake up tired. Be like, why do I got to go to work tomorrow again?
But yeah, welcome back to the show.
Thank you.
Excited to have you here for your first Ghoulcade appearance, by the way.
Ghoulcade?
It is the Ghoulcade. It's the annual Halloween thing. Yeah, it's okay. It's fine. It's not that important, you know. Just a Halloween freak, that's all. My second guest, though, has a badge on them. It says they are from the Fun and Games and Reignite podcasts. This is a busy crew. I don't know what you guys are doing on this ship. And when I woke them up, they called me a bitch and told me to stay away from her. I didn't understand it. They were very distraught when I woke them up. Maybe we'll find out once we beat Super Metroid. Anyway, you all know them. Welcome back to life and welcome back to the show, Matt Storm.
Hi, I'm happy to be back. It sounds like something I'd say, if I'm honest. Look, I'm just tired. We're all tired. I mean, I think Chris nailed it. I think there's no amount of sleep to release us from the exhaustion that is living right now in 2025 as when we're recording. But yeah, I'm excited to be here. Thanks for waking me from my cryosleep so I can podcast about a Metroid game. Something I've never done before and will never do again on various podcasts. You can't prove it. It never happened.
Interesting. So how familiar are you guys with the Metroid series?
Get the long-winded answer out of the way. I have been a Metroid fan since the classic Metroid on NES, albeit I stunk at it and it scared the crap out of me. Pixels can be scary, but I've been playing the franchise since. The first one I ever finished was Super Metroid on the SNES, but as we talked previously on your Final Fantasy episode, I came to the SNES, or maybe we mentioned in the F-Zero episode. I don't know. It all bleeds together at this point. I mentioned that I got the SNES pretty late, but along with F-Zero and Donkey Kong Country, one of the early games I got was Super Metroid, which I loved. But it wouldn't be until Metroid Fusion, the Game Boy Advance game, that I would really fall in love with the series that to this day remains my favorite game in the franchise. But I have gone on to play all of them. I am in the midst of, and may have finished by the time people are hearing this, a 2D timeline replay. And what that means is I'm picking my favorite versions of each game in the series of the 2D series to replay. I started with Zero Mission, then went on to the 3DS version of Samus Returns, Super Metroid, Fusion, and then I'm going to replay Dread after that. As of this recording, I have not done that yet. But I love the 2D franchise. I only played Prime for the first time, the remaster on Switch last year. Was that last year? I don't know. Time's a lake. But I played that for the first time recently. I want to play the rest of the Prime series, especially with 4 on the horizon. But yeah, needless to say, I'm a massive fan of this franchise, and I haven't played every game in the series, but I've definitely played a lot of them.
Asking in general. Chris, what about you?
So I hated Metroid. I hated Metroidvanias in general until I played Aria of Sorrow, Castlevania Aria of Sorrow, and that made Metroidvanias click for me. So then I played Fusion, absolutely loved it. Thought I was gonna like Super Metroid. It was too difficult for me. I couldn't understand it. So I just pretty much stuck with Fusion, tried to play Prime. Prime didn't click at all with all the scanning and having to get a certain percentage of items to get like the real true ending or something fucking stupid like that. And then Zero Mission I loved, and I'm same as Matt. I am doing a whole 2D playthrough of the series. Earlier this year, I beat Zero Mission on stream, which was a great time. It took me like maybe 2 to 3 hours to beat. Then played the 3DS remake, which I don't like that much. But I beat Super Metroid, which I had to do it immediately this weekend. I jumped into Fusion and played through Fusion, and Fusion is amazing. And holy shit, Fusion needs more love. And then I'm probably going to do Dread in a month or so, or maybe this weekend if I finish Final Fantasy Tactics, which holy what a difficult game.
I think it's interesting you two are going through the 2D Metroids because I'm on the opposite side of the genre doing all the 2D Castlevania games, and holy crap, there's a lot of 2D Castlevania games.
Yeah.
Like,
and a lot of them are not great.
Yeah, a lot of them are crap.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Just to give my brief history with the other Metroid games. Covered Metroid for the NES on this very podcast. Covered Samus Returns, or is it Return of Samus? I don't remember which one. The titles are different. The remake.
So the remake is Samus Returns.
The
original is Return of Samus.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. So I covered the original Game Boy game, Return of Samus, and yeah, as a kid, didn't really care for those games. As an adult, I still don't care for those games. You can go listen to those episodes. I appreciate what Metroid 2 did. I still don't think it's a great game, but I think it's a pretty big step forward, especially when you consider that it was a Game Boy game. It's crazy what that game does. And then, yeah, I played Metroid Prime when that came out, and then I played Prime 2 when that came out. Never finished Prime 2 until last year, and had an awesome time. Played Prime 3 last year as well. I did a playthrough of the Prime trilogy. And I had to play Fusion for a podcast like in 2021 or 22, somewhere around there. Didn't care for it. Didn't really like how on rails it was. I liked how it leaned into the horror aspect a little bit more. But overall, just not really for me. And that's kind of where my history with the franchise is. So as for the rest of this episode, I'm going to be doing something a little different. And Chris, I'm going to give you a little bit of grace here because you've already popped the cherry. You said the secret word of the episode. And the secret word is Metroidvania. I'm going to challenge you two tonight. And this is actually going to lean into the game that we're going to be playing a little bit later, the trivia. To refrain from saying Metroidvania, because I think it is a dumb genre name. And for any listeners,
stupid.
I mean, that's not a hot take.
My listeners,
it is a stupid genre name. Like literally anyone would agree that it is bad.
There's a Facebook group about Metroidvania fans, and every once in a while somebody will pop off saying, "Why do we call this genre this?" Yeah. And that's the name of the group. It's like Metroidvania fans or something like that. Even the fans hate the name.
So yeah, I will challenge you guys to refrain from saying Metroidvania. And if you don't, that's fine. You can totally say it. But for every time you say it, I am going to take away from a point that you could possibly earn during the trivia segment.
All right.
So, and you guys cannot team up for the trivia. You guys will be pitted against each other. You have podcasts to represent. All right.
Look, all I know is the last time I had to face off against another podcaster was in the Sonic CD episode, and everyone remembers how that went. So, congrats, Chris. I'll give you the early victory.
Sure. Well, last time that I was on, the trivia was about video game reselling, and I failed it completely. So
I did do pretty good. I did do pretty good. I got like 3 or 4 of them, which to me is basically winning.
Maybe you should help him to get run. Maybe you should help. Maybe you should get them to help you run with. God, why can't I talk? You know what? Forget it. You guys want to talk about Super Metroid?
Sure, let's do it.
sure.
This is going to go great. So as always, we start talking about our previous histories with Super Metroid. Since I cannot talk right now for whatever reason, Matt, tell me specifically your history with Super Metroid.
Sure. So, as I mentioned earlier, I'm a Metroid fan, as folks in the know would call probably a sicko for the Metroid games, for search action games on the whole. But Super Metroid, like I said, I didn't have history with it when it came out. I remember it coming out, and like I had fond memories of Metroid and the Game Boy game. I never owned Return of Samus, but I had played it. Friends had it. But Super Metroid is the first Metroid game I bought with my own money, like knowing I wanted this game. I ended up with the original Metroid on NES, and I can't remember how, which I feel like was the case for a lot of young kids who have like their first console. Is like some of it you want certain games, and then other times it's like someone like a family friend or someone else, just a game ends up in your lap. But Super Metroid I wanted, and like I said, I came to this SNES kind of late because I started with the Genesis, all in the name of Sonic, which, depending on who you are, is either a good or bad decision. For me, I thought it was a good one. But yeah, and then Super Metroid I fell in love with immediately. I don't know that I beat it as a kid. I don't think I did. I was pretty dumb when it came to video games. But I think in college is the first time I really sat down with it and beat it. And then would play it again and again over the years. I had it on the Wii Virtual Console. I now have it installed on any emulation device that'll run SNES games. I've played this game more times than I can count. I recently replayed it, like I said, for this series of 2D games I'm replaying. And I have a lot of thoughts about it. It's funny. I can already, based on our like pre-podcast conversations, I feel like we have a full gradient of hate to adore of this game, and I feel like I may be somewhere in the middle, but we'll get to that. But I'm glad I replayed it. There's still a lot to love about it. But I think the interesting thing is coming into it late, hearing all the conversation, and now a lot of people still laud this game as the best search action game ever made. And I don't know that I agree with it, even though I love it. But we'll get to that. But that broadly is my experience with this very specific Metroid game.
I'll go next, only because I think my previous history with it very much reflects yours. I feel like a lot of our gaming history is very like in tandem with each other, which is weird. Because when I was a kid, we definitely had it. It was definitely one of those games that just ended up in our house, mainly because my brother could afford to buy games. And I kind of like the other Metroid games. I didn't really like it at first. And so I don't have a lot of like fond memories of this game when it came out. Though I do remember, like, the one thing that I'll never forget is just how blown away I was by how good the game looked back then. I mean, the bosses in Super Metroid were showstoppers. Like, it was very rare to see sprites that were that large and that animated, and that were also that detailed. And like this quality that wasn't even like CD-ROM quality. Like it was full 16-bit, sprite based. And so I remember, going to school and telling my friends about Super Metroid, and I was like, you got to like see this boss. He's like 6 stories tall, and like you're Samus, and you got to climb up him and shoot missiles in his mouth and stuff. And it was like, and my friends were just like, what? Nah, no way. And then you come over and like show them the Kraid fight or whatever, but then like the rest of the game was just like, man, this is boring. So I came back to it a lot later, like mid 2000s, I would say. I'd moved out, had my own place, bought a Super Nintendo on eBay, and for whatever reason got Super Metroid with that Super Nintendo. And I played it and had an amazing time. And since then, I can't even tell you how many times I've replayed this game. I think tonight's discussion is, I don't know how objectively I can even try and look at this game. This was one of the first games I remember watching like a speedrun on, and the speedrunning community is massive for this game. This is like one of the games to speedrun. And I don't really watch speedruns as much as I used to, but sometimes I'll go out of my way to watch a new Super Metroid run. And this is like, if I was going to ever speedrun a game, this would probably be it. It's like really the only game that I have played so much that I've gone out of my way to learn some of those implemented speedrunning techniques or strategies or whatever, like stuff like from using the shine sparking, clipping. I think it's called moon. Is it the moon jump or moonfall? I don't remember which
jump,
one. There's two different ones.
But I'm admittedly fuzzy on the speedrunning terms.
It's basically the one where you like input a certain button combo and Samus just like falls like a rock, like incredibly fast. And then the mock ball, which is probably like the easiest technique out of all of them. So yeah, I am deeply familiar with this game. And yeah, it's going to be an interesting discussion, I think, from here on out. I think I can typically clear the game, a little bit of a humble brag here, just under like 3 hours. I think when I played it for the show, I think I sent you guys a screenshot and it was like 2 hours and 55 minutes or something, which is like a far cry from like the people who can typically run this game in like 40 minutes.
Yeah. The speedrunning community for this is insane. Yeah. I think my clear time was like just under 5 hours. I tend to take my time in these games. It's funny you mentioned streaming.
Sure.
During the pandemic, one of the first games I streamed when I was starting to stream on Twitch more regularly was this game. And we'll get to it later when we talk about like certain areas, but there's an area that Chris was complaining about before we even started recording that I was like, yeah, streaming this was terrible. Like, because everyone just watched me struggle. But yeah, like the online community is really fervent for this game. Because it's considered, this is the game that pretty much coined the genre name that shall not be named, this and Symphony of the Night. And so like, whether you think it's the best game in the series or not, it's definitely one of the most important because of that.
And finally, Chris, what's your history of Super Metroid?
So I think the first time I played it was a neighbor had it. I think I was maybe 13 or 14, and I borrowed it from him, and I was like, oh, it's Metroid. Metroid is awesome. Because I think at that point I only knew about Metroid from Smash Bros. 64. I didn't understand it, gave it back, and then I didn't replay it again until maybe 2019 that I played it on the 3DS. And I remember it took me like 8 or 9 hours to get through the entire game because of the one section that gave me issues this time. And then this is basically my second playthrough ever of this game, and I don't think I'm ever going to replay this game.
Oh, okay. Well,
yeah.
Let's not give away your complete thoughts just yet. I will say, like, we keep hinting towards it, but, you know, all my homies hate Meridia. Nobody likes Meridia.
It's bad. It's bad.
It's awful.
Bad design. Bad.
This episode is brought to you by the Meridia Tourism Board. Come for the sand pits. Stay because you got stuck in the sand pits. That's interesting that you kind of found out about the series through Smash Brothers, because like when I think about it, Matt, you and I just talked about F-Zero, and it's like between Metroid and F-Zero, there weren't really any. No, that's a lie. The F-Zero. What was the one on the N64?
F-Zero X.
F-Zero X. There was no Metroid game on the N64. So I stand corrected.
The N64 is the only Nintendo console, including handhelds, to not get a Metroid game of some kind. Like even either the DS or the 3DS had like Federation Force, like or Pinball, right? Like there has been a Metroid game on every single Nintendo console except the N64. It's bizarre.
That is, well, does the Game Boy Color count as a?
I guess not really. It's sort of an evolution of the
Unless
Game Boy.
They did,
but like
another, like a Zelda DX thing where they just added color to later releases or something like that. Maybe that counts.
That kind of counts.
The Virtual
Boy. The Virtual Boy
did
not have a Metroid game either. Sure, but the Virtual Boy didn't have a lot of franchises.
That doesn't exist.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I was gonna say that, you know, it's interesting that, you know, we talked about like a lot of people learning about Ness and Captain Falcon through Smash Brothers, and then hearing Chris learning about Samus, and like a lot of those, by the time Smash Brothers came out, a lot of those series were kind of dormant.
Yeah.
But
Chris,
I stand corrected because there was an F-Zero on N64, so
At least my little group of friends in the neighborhood didn't know what Metroid was. They kept calling Samus a Ninja Turtle.
The big armor.
Nobody knew what it was except the one neighbor that lived like 6 streets all the way downhill. He apparently had Super Metroid and nobody knew about it. So
And then I have to question what your friend thinks the Ninja Turtles actually do.
well, he wasn't like really part of the group. He was like this kid.
He's an outcast.
keep that one far away. Yeah.
I mean, it's funny, like Chris mentioning this though reminds me that like when I was so stoked that Samus was in Smash Brothers, a lot of my friends were like, who's Samus? Or they'd go, oh, that's Metroid.
Right.
Like calling the character Metroid, like, you know, and also calling Samus a he, because again, armor assumptions, which was a lot of the Metroid history until basically Super Metroid when it was more obvious. But like that, I had forgotten about that until you mentioned it, Chris, because that was pretty common for me too. I was a Metroid fan, and a few of my friends were, but most folks were just like, "Oh, that's Metroid. That's that character from that game series," which I think is pretty funny, but not super uncommon. I guess it just depended on the circle you rolled in.
Mm-hmm. Interesting how Nintendo had that problem twice.
Yeah,
Samus is Metroid and Link is Zelda.
Yeah. Oh my God.
Right?
Yeah.
So, as it is written, Super Metroid is an action-adventure game developed by Nintendo R&D 1 and Intelligent Systems, and of course, published by Nintendo. It was developed by a team of around 15 to 17 people, which is pretty small compared to modern AAA standards. The game was directed and written by Yoshio Sakamoto, produced by Makoto Kano, and programmed by Gunpei Yokoi. We got there. The soundtrack and sound effects were composed by Kenji Yamamoto. So I have a question for you guys, because I've talked about on my previous Metroid episodes that Metroid was never popular really anywhere else except for the US. The NES game did pretty well in the US and in Europe, and the Game Boy game was big enough that Kano actually went ahead and asked Nintendo to greenlight the project, which took, I think it was like about 6 months from what I read, which was pretty weird. It is also unusual for Nintendo to even greenlight the thing in the first place, considering it was never really that large in Japan. So all of this is to ask you guys is, what do you think it is about the Metroid franchise that resonates more with people in the West than maybe in its home country?
I think it's aliens.
I mean, that's
Just
agreed.
Yeah, just the fact that we had a movie series about being stuck in a spaceship with an alien. I think that, because Metroid is very lonely, and if you don't know how to play the game, you're full of dread of what you're going to encounter next, because Samus is made out of paper mache. Like one hit will just drain her health. I think it's just that having that fear of, being in your own little playable aliens movie, but you can have a huge arsenal of weapons to defend yourself. I feel like that's pretty alluring.
Yeah, I would piggyback on that and saying it's also one of the earliest horror series. I think that while Fusion is when it really leaned into its horror roots, the opening to Metroid on the NES, like when there's almost no music and you're in this dark cavern and one of the statues' heads turns to you and a light shines on you and you don't know what's happening or why it's doing it, like it's creepy. And then the later games would really lean into it. Dread, Prime, Fusion. I mean, even Super Metroid, there's a jump scare in this game. We'll get to it. But like, I think a lot of the love was also because it was an early horror series, not in the traditional survival horror way, because even though there were some early survival horror games in Japan around this time, this was like the first, I think, game that came to the US that really had like those elements of dread and horror in a game about exploration. And we did have a lot of movies about space exploration and aliens and like that dread and horror. And so I think that I agree, like to build on what Chris is saying, I think it's that kind of vibe that made it popular here.
I think horror, the East was into a different type of horror. They're kind of into that mysticism and like spirituality and ghosts and stuff like that. Like a lot of the J horror, even up into the 2000s, was very paranormal for the most part. And whereas like the US, I mean, for the most part, I mean, we're kind of obsessed with being the first to do something. We're obsessed with space. I think there's a lot of that too.
I can see that.
Yeah. I think science fiction is more popular here than in Japan at the time also. Like there was science fiction there, but I think it was definitely one of the thriving genres, especially in the 80s, for sure, was science fiction broadly too.
And it's also fun to kind of reminisce and think back to my older Metroid episodes, because around that time, Dread, I think, had been announced or was like coming out within several months of me putting out those episodes. You know, when I cared about the algorithm and trending topics and stuff. So, and scheduled my episodes around those.
You know, I think I know that one of the reasons why I love Metroid, the series, is because of that feeling of loneliness and melancholy. Like there was a whole thriving civilization here, and now it's gone, and I'm alone in this planet filled with creatures that are gonna kill me if I don't, defend myself. But particularly in Prime, it does it very well, where you're exploring the ruins and you find all of these logs and all this stuff about what happened here and what these people were doing before they up and disappeared mysteriously. And I think that's one of the major reasons why Metroid, is so popular too, apart from, it being just a playable alien movie.
Well, it's interesting too, because Prime was on one of the worst selling Nintendo consoles.
Yep. And yet it's the second best selling Metroid game ever.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Which is, it's insane, but also like, is it? Is it next to Dread?
It's a low selling series. I mean, Dread at its peak only sold just over 3 million copies. And that's because of the Switch install base more than anything else. Like,
that's where I was going to get to.
Yeah. And so like Prime being all the worst selling console, I refuse to say it's the worst console. It is not. That's reserved for the Wii U. But one of the worst selling.
I didn't like that take.
one of the worst selling consoles for sure, or worst received, and it's still one of the best selling games. Now they could be lumping in some of the newer Prime sales, but I don't think so. I think the remaster is considered separate. But yeah,
which makes me wonder how the remaster did.
I am curious, unless they're lumping it in, but I don't think they are.
Because what? Maybe the remaster did like 5 million, and
yeah,
I mean, tell me that there's like 8 million of Prime on the GameCube.
Yeah. I don't know if I want to call it revisionist history, but I'll go with that for lack of a better term here. But like revisionist history that has been folded into the legacy of Super Metroid, since it didn't really sell all that well.
Yeah, it's the sixth best selling. What boggles my mind is the NES version is the third best selling under the other two, right? Like that nothing else in the franchise before that. And I guess install base is part of it, right? The Nintendo Entertainment System is one of the most successful video game consoles ever. So it makes sense, but it's very funny to me that like Super Metroid, which I think hands down anyone would agree is better than the original game, didn't outsell it. Fusion didn't outsell it, not even the Game Boy game. So that's just kind of funny to me.
I want to touch back on the legacy of Super Metroid a little bit later on in the development history here. But did you guys know that development for Super Metroid actually began all the way back in 1991?
Wow. No.
The autumn of 1991, which was like a year after the Super Famicom release.
Crazy.
Yeah. Development of Super Metroid spanned 3 years. And initially Sakamoto was not excited to come back to Metroid. I think that speaks volumes about a series that was kind of having a rough go as far as sales went. that one of the series creators was like not crazy about doing it. But as I mentioned a couple minutes earlier about Kano kind of being excited to get this thing going, to get it greenlit, to get Nintendo off their asses to actually do another Metroid game, he wrangled Sakamoto in. He wanted him to do it with him, and Sakamoto was like, hey, this new hardware is probably going to be pretty great. There's going to be a lot of potential for a new Metroid game, so let's do it. And they had a pretty rough time because the Super Nintendo was not the same as far as programming a game as the NES was. And I think it's important to credit the technical staff on any video game, period. Not just this game. I think a lot of people who work on video games, a lot of people just want to like, it was a Hideo Kojima game, or it was a, I know developer names.
Sam Lake, Cliff Blazinski.
Yeah, Cliffy B. Woof.
Yeah.
But yeah, we know all these names, right?
Yeah.
But not like the technical staff. And I mean, I think Gunpei Yokoi, probably one of like the most well-known technical programmers within Nintendo. And I think without him there to help with the tech literacy, the communication between design and computing would have been completely folded in on this development staff. And another one of the unsung heroes of Super Metroid is Yasuhiko Fuji, who helped program the game as well, who went out of their way to create this special tool that let designers input data directly into the game and automatically converted it into source code, essentially. And the funny thing about Fuji is that when he was like a new person at Nintendo at the time, and he hadn't even played anything in the Metroid series when they hired him. So, and one of his quotes was like that he just didn't understand Metroid. Like he didn't get it when he played it. But once he started like digging into the programming and stuff, once he really nerded out about the ones and zeros, then he kind of nestled in and really got into it. So I thought that was kind of interesting. But throughout the years, the game had a ton of play testing done. Regular play test meetings were run where the team would bring in newer staff to play the entire game. They would take notes, and Sakamoto himself actually brought builds of the game home to let his wife and kids play, and would go to the office the next day and fix any issues that they encountered. So kind of cool stuff there. And as we all know, I mean, it's a tale as old as time, crunch, right? R&D 1 and Intelligent Systems were basically pulling all-nighters to get this out of the door. Fuji at the time talked about how Yamauchi, the president of Nintendo at the time, Hiroshi Yamauchi, was roaming the halls and checking in on the team constantly. But eventually they got it done. Took, again, about 3.5 years to make Super Metroid. It basically went from the launch, a little bit after the launch of the Super NES, to almost like midway, almost until it was basically, the generation was practically over, which is, it's insane. They built one global version, ensuring that no matter like what region you played the game in, you were going to be playing the exact same copy of the game. And so that wrapped in February of 1994. It was released in Japan on March 19th for the Super Famicom, April 18th in the US, and July 28th in Europe for the Super Nintendo. The game was showcased at that year's Winter CES and was apparently named the best Super Nintendo game by GamePro. And another interesting note that I found was that this was released just before the implementation of the ESRB. And Sakamoto basically stated that had it came out afterwards, they probably would have dodged it anyway, because the violence in Super Metroid can be explained away that Samus is basically doing this to save the universe. I don't know. I kind of disagree, though I think Nintendo was kind of in the good graces of the ESRB, considering what they went to court for and everything. Howard Lincoln fought very hard to keep that clean cut image for Nintendo. Since then, Super Metroid has been released on the Wii, Wii U, and Nintendo 3DS Virtual Console. It was included on the Super NES Classic Edition and Nintendo Switch Online service. In 2002, it was followed up by a direct sequel, Metroid Fusion, for the Game Boy Advance. Coming back to the legacy a little bit here, Super Metroid was essentially used as like the same exact template for the remake we talked about, Metroid: Samus Returns. And that's kind of like another thing about Super Metroid is that not only was it literally used as a template for one of its sequels, but a lot of people, and this is something you alluded to, Matt, think it's the template for the entire genre. What is it about Super Metroid that people think that it has become so timeless, even compared to the later games in the series?
I mean, I think so. I can't give all the credit to Metroid. We mentioned Symphony of the Night earlier, and I think that'll come up again later in the retro recollections. If you know who is in those recollections, he will probably bring it up. He always does. The other Chris. But before we get to that, I think the reason people consider it like a stamp is because of the quality of life things that this game did that no game had done before. The map system, the way it marked the map, the way it showed you if you found the hidden item in that section of the map, the way the map completes, like it turns pink as you go through the map to like show where you've been, all of that stuff. Like, I think that's really like those kinds of things are what makes it so iconic. Is it brought staples to the genre of seek action games? Sure. Seek action games.
Go for it.
Doing my best. We're all just trying here. I think that's what it makes it iconic. Not necessarily the gameplay, although I think the gameplay is pretty iconic in this game, but I think it's more about the broad exploration, which is in any game of this genre, and the map system, or like the big tent poles that make it kind of legendary in its position.
I have to agree, though. Okay, so I was going to make a joke earlier about the people that worked on the game not wanting to make another Metroid game because the original Metroid and Metroid 2 didn't have a map, and they didn't want to go through the bullshit having to develop a full game without a map in game that you can reference while you're testing, because that just seems like one of the worst times for me to have playing a game. But, you know, it did cement a bunch of things, like Matt said, in the Castle Troid genre, where, you know, you have the maps, you have upgrades, you have new abilities that you can use to go back and open up new areas and keep the exploration going. And even though I think in the latter half of the game kind of hits the bed with the flow of the game at the beginning is incredible. Like, you just go until you hit a wall. And then once you figure that out, it's just kind of like in Dark Souls when you kill a boss, like, oh, that was awesome, let me do it again. And I think that's why Super Metroid is such a pillar in the genre.
So do you think a lot of the other games in the genre have that same pacing issue that Super Metroid does then?
No. That's like a Super Metroid issue. I feel like Samus Returns, the 3DS game, does have that, especially towards the end where you only have a handful of Metroids left to hunt down. But as the years have gone by and people have gotten better at creating these sorts of games, those issues have not been a thing. Like, I don't know if you've played the Ori games, at least the first one is just flow from start to finish. It's great. Like, you don't stop from starting.
I dropped the first Ori game like a bad habit.
Really?
I hated it. Yeah.
The Axiom Verge games, same deal. From the start to the end, just pure flow, just exploration, upgrading to keep exploring more, to fight bigger things, and just on and on.
Contemporary review scores would tend to agree with what a majority of people say about this game. Game Rankings has it at 97%. Video games, just video games, 80%. Famitsu gave it 32 out of 40. Edge, 8 out of 10. Computer and video games, 91 out of 100. GameSpot, 8.5 out of 10. All Game, 4.5 out of 5. Game Informer, 9.5 out of 10. IGN, 9.5 out of 10. Super Gamer, 95 out of 100. Multiple awards won and given. In 1994, Super Metroid was a hit. It was huge, looking at all of these numbers. But at the same time, again, talking about numbers again, comparing it to like Mario or Zelda, just like the reviews almost didn't matter. Like the game just did not sell. And despite glowing reviews, it's crazy to think about.
Yeah, it's one of those things that like I couldn't tell you why, right? It's like when a movie becomes a cult classic, I think of movies that I've loved over the years, like Scott Pilgrim, which is now considered like an excellent film, but at the time nobody wanted to see it in theaters. And I think like with this game and like that, it could be blamed on the marketing. I'm willing to bet dollars to donuts that the way they marketed the game, especially in the West, maybe didn't always sell the game at its best. I mean, video game marketing has always been kind of wacky, especially in the 90s. I think of like the Nintendo stuff with Sonic and all of that. And so maybe it just didn't reach the right audience that way. That would be my suspicion.
You know, I also wonder how much the blame would fall on licensed video games. Like, you know, you had your Batman games, you know, stuff, RoboCop, games based on movies that people would recognize more than, you know, Super Metroid. And they would be like, oh, this movie was fun. The game should be fun too. And, you know, because not everybody had $80 to drop on a brand new game in the 90s. So I wonder how much the sales had to do with brand recognition more than, you know, advertising or you know, it being Metroid.
Sorry, I'm just looking up the release date of Donkey Kong Country here. So this was November 1994 for Donkey Kong Country, and Super Metroid came out in, what was it? I already forgot. October of 94? So right around the same time. It's weird that Donkey Kong Country was a seller, but then again, it was like more of a technical showpiece than Super Metroid was. I also wonder if it had anything to do with the ESRB at all, like the hearings and stuff like that, because Nintendo has always been sometimes rightfully called, you know, the children's game console. And so maybe people were like, Super Metroid's for babies, even though Super Metroid's pretty grim, actually. But so I wonder. And also,
if Donkey Kong had the arcade game, right? So you had at that time adults now that grew up playing Donkey Kong at the arcades would be like, "Oh, new Donkey Kong game. We just get this."
Well, where were those adults showing up for Super Metroid?
Well, they didn't have Metroid at the arcade.
Well, you had Metroid at home, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, maybe you're right. And maybe it is a marketing, a lack of marketing, and maybe some of Nintendo's own doing because of the violence in video games hearings and stuff like that. It's interesting. It's interesting to think about. And I feel like every time I talk about Metroid, I bring it up, but new guests, new podcasts, I gotta pick your guys' brains about it.
Well, sure. I mean, also, again, it's a problem that has plagued the franchise since. It's not even just then, right? Like, again, I said earlier, Dread sold really well, and is the highest selling game in the series with 3 million. Like, Mario and Zelda do triple that. So I think it's something beyond just the marketing. I think there's just an expectation. Maybe it's the difficulty, but yeah, it definitely is an anomaly that I think is worth always talking about, because this is one of the few flagship Nintendo franchises that sells this low. Even Kirby, a game that, a franchise that sells less than Mario and Zelda, still sells more than this. And so it's always been like curious to consider this as a flagship, like icon of Nintendo that has sold so much lower than the rest of them.
Well, of course, there are people that still think that this game is a perfect game to this day. So, of course, I had to pull 2 reviews for this one. I couldn't pass them up. Jet Walsh on Google Reviews gave Super Metroid a perfect score, 5 out of 5, and says, I've played this a ton on the weekdays. Super Metroid defeated Ridley and died some after that, but this game is futuristic, and the future is soon to come. # Super Metroid.
Punctuation is overrated.
Yeah. There was no time.
No time.
The future is soon to come.
Are you okay, Keith? Did you have a stroke?
And then Andrew Brandon, of course, also gave this a perfect score, 5 out of 5, saying, one of the greatest, bloodiest game shooters around. I should know, I played it before. And then in parentheticals, I can only get the rockets in the morphing ball. So
amazing.
They played like 5 minutes.
Yeah, I mean, you get those literally
5 out
in
of
the
5.
first 5 minutes. But sure, I mean, who am I to judge how people play their games?
But of course, dear listeners, we have to find out what you guys thought about Super Metroid. This is, of course, Retro Recollections. This is the part of the show where you guys get to talk and reminisce on your experience with Super Metroid. And if you would like to participate in this portion of the show, all you have to do is come hang out in the Discord. Whenever I've got a recording coming up, I let everybody know in the Retro Recollections channel what is coming up, and you get to speak your piece. Links to the Discord are, of course, in the show notes. And first, we're going to hear from Raging Demon from the Command List podcast, who says, Metroid is awesome. Super Metroid is the second one I played. I have been a fan ever since I played the original NES one. Great game and great series. Only from someone in Australia. Totally makes sense. Thank you, Raging Demon. Next, we have Willie from the Grand Rapidians Play Video Games, who says, I never got in this one as much as I did Metroid 2. Still liked it, though. Totally fair. Totally fair. Metroid 2, not a good game, but I can understand why people would like it. Seeky Wisdom next says, took the best of every Metroid game before it and fused it into a masterpiece that set the bar for every Metroid game that followed. Thank you, Seek. I will not disagree with you there. Next, we have Phil of Deleted Saves, who says, this was my first Metroid, and it made one hell of an impression. I've gone back to the rest of the 2D Metroid family thanks to this title and loved every one of them, except the first one, that is. Great game. Captain N from the Retrotopia podcast says, after playing Zero Mission and Other M, I think I'm ready to play a real Metroid.
Wow.
Haven't played either one of those, but
Zero Mission's
I'll
great,
take his
but
word for
Other
it.
M,
Yeah.
I will plead the fifth on Other M.
Zero Mission's the remake of the first game, right?
Correct.
Yes.
It's the only playable way to play the first game.
Yeah.
I can't possibly think that's any worse than the first game. But next we have Chris Copleen, of course, from Retro Hangover, who says, there it is, Matt.
Yep.
I'm team Symphony did it right first on this, which admittedly is probably a small team. I just don't like how items are hidden, which equates to bombing every corner of a room, the odd mechanics with wall jumping, and how it's designed to be a speedrun game. But I get why people do love it. It's a gorgeous game with tremendous audio. The overall presentation of Super Metroid is among the best on the Super Nintendo. And when the game is at its highs, even I can't deny it sizzles. But for me, it feels like a formula that is just a bit away from truly finding its groove. Thank you, Chris. I'm just, his comment on how it's designed to be a speedrun game. And obviously, we've talked about speedrunning at the top of the show. And I don't know if that's coming from Chris post learning about speedruns or if that's how he felt his entire life about the game. I don't know. I can't ask him right now, but I don't know. It's an interesting comment. Chris, if you're listening to this, get back to me because I know I'll forget. Next, Lethco from the Afterglow podcast says, I didn't get into the NES Metroid and missed out on the Game Boy one, but I enjoyed the Super Nintendo one quite a bit. I don't think it's a perfect game as many do, but it was far on the path to getting the formula right. Graphically, the game is beautiful and holds up to this day. Gameplay is fun but slightly marred by some very cryptic hidden items on one's first playthrough. If you know the path, you know what to do, and it's a blast to play. If you're lost, it gets quite frustrating to figure out where to go and what to do, and the problem amplifies itself the deeper you are in the game and the more areas you unlock, because now that adds to the backtracking you gotta do to figure out where to go. A first play is usually enjoyable with frustrating moments, with repeat plays being where the game actually gets better, because you at least have an idea of what to do and where to go. Thank you, Lethco. And finally, we have Thrak from Thrak Ops. Super Metroid I got to after Fusion and even Zero missions, so while I prefer the GBA games, I can't deny the quality of Super Metroid. The game that was so good, it was the foundation for a genre that still has a naming crisis to this day. There are 3 SNES games, in my opinion, that are truly defining for their series, and Super Metroid is definitely one of them. Thank you, Thrak, and thank you, everybody, for all of your lengthy recollections here. Everybody kind of running the gamut, but for the most part, giving Super Metroid its kudos. But will me, Matt, and Chris give Super Metroid its kudos? Let's dive into the game proper. Let's talk about the story and plot. And I've joked about it on previous episodes. I've joked about it on social media. I've joked about it in the Discord. Samus might be the most terrifying protagonist of any video game. She is a monster. She is a beast. She's too powerful. Chris, you said she's lights up like a piece of paper or whatever. Like she's fragile, but I wholeheartedly disagree.
Gameplay, when you're playing the game, she's made out of paper, but she's kind of like a glass cannon. Like she will blow your head off in one go, but get wrecked at the same time.
So the manual, it outlines basically the entire plot of both previous games up to Super Metroid. And then when you start up the game also tells you that same exact plot. So it's interesting. But the manual goes just a little bit deeper. And there's this quote that I pulled that says, "The Supreme Council gave Samus the job to fly to SR-388 and do what the Special Corps couldn't, make the Metroids extinct." If that's not ominous, I don't know what else is.
It is true. Samus has decided to genocide the Metroids and wipe them out. Now, the Metroids are considered a species that will destroy everything they come in contact with. But as later games will prove, they're not the only creepy alien species that can wipe out entire planets. So, Samus just has a job to do more than once.
But lore wise, aren't just the Metroid on SR388? Aren't they? If they show up somewhere else, isn't because the Federation took them there or the Space Pirates took them there?
Basically, they're like only here. Like it's in between 2 and 3, Samus is wiping out every Metroid in existence. I mean, that's basically the plot of 2, is to stop them from their source. But yeah, I mean, they'll come up later in the later games, but the Galactic Federation sucks and they cause more problems than there were. Is the gist.
Maybe the next game we should exterminate the Galactic Federation. That would be more beneficial.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, as far as Super Metroid goes proper, basically, I don't, do I want to go over the first 2 games? Okay. Catch up time. Space Pirates steal a Metroid from the Galactic Federation and bring it to Zebes in hopes of duplicating it and creating an army. Samus goes and kills everybody. And so the Galactic Federation then sends military to LV-223. I mean, that's aliens, sorry. SR-388 to genocide the Metroids. They can't, so Samus gets the job to make them extinct, and she does, except for one Metroid, which a lot of people tend to think that the Metroid imprints itself on her. Mm-hmm. I don't know if in later games that is canon, if they actually...
It absolutely is.
Oh,
110%, yeah.
Yeah, I don't think the Metroid's lore or story varies between games. I think they've managed to keep it pretty consistent.
Mm-hmm. Well, because at the end of Metroid 2, and then with this, I always kind of thought like, oh, she spared the Metroid, so it's kind of being nice to her or whatever. Like, it doesn't actually say the Metroid thinks Samus is its mother or anything like that. Like,
well, I mean, it says
always kind of like a...
It says in the remake and in some of the written materials that the baby, when it hatched, first saw Samus and didn't attack Samus, bonded to it, like essentially thought Samus was her mother or its mother, and then follows you as you escape and comes with you, and then you bring it to the Galactic Federation. So basically the lore is that the Metroid imprinted on Samus, Samus felt sorry for it, and brought it into captivity as the last Metroid.
A lot of Metroid lore is missing from me, so
yeah,
I didn't know if that was like solidified in lore or not. But so she brings the Metroid to Weyland-Yutani, I mean the Galactic Federation colony, and that is where the events of Super Metroid begin.
Yeah.
What a cold open to a game, to a 16-bit adventure. Like, this is just oozing with atmosphere, and the game doesn't let up with this kind of atmosphere like the entire playthrough. It's so good. Like, there's bodies on the ground, broken equipment, the lights are out, it's like very quiet. It's just, oh man, it's so good, even to this day.
Yeah, the environmental storytelling in this game is top notch, and it continues to be in the series. Like you mentioned, Fusion being offhanded, being like more horror, and I know Chris, you're a fan of it too. Like that takes it to the next level. But this game is where it really started. Where like, I mean, since the first game they did it, but this one they really weigh in. Like that first scene where like the start screen of the game is all of the dead scientists. Like the start screen. And then when you get into the game, like that first room, and then you get into that first room with the baby Metroid in the canister, and then you see the red eye, and Ridley appears, and then the fight starts, and Ridley escapes, flies at the screen using that FX chip. Like all of that is just aesthetics and coolness, right? Like it's just a vibe. My favorite thing about this game is that when the music is great, it's really great. And when the music's not there or minimalist, it's still really great because it's all feeding the atmosphere. And you're right, like this opening scene, like this sets the standard for Metroid telling its story by showing, not telling, right? It's like there's dialogue in the later games, but not much. You could fit every script of a Metroid game ever on 5 pages, probably, maybe 10. Like there's not a lot of talking in most of the Metroid games. That's not true, actually. Fusion has a lot of talking. But anyway, like this game doesn't. It's all vibes and atmosphere and like exploration to discover what's happening.
You grab the morph ball and it's almost like the planet is reacting to your presence. And suddenly things are watching you. And now you're on high alert. And then all of a sudden all of this is you're exploring old Torian basically from the first game, and you go back up that elevator and suddenly there's space pirates everywhere, and yeah, it's just it's great, and I absolutely appreciated as a kid at least, and even more so as an adult, that you were actually returning to the first game. I always thought that was like. I always thought that was cool. Like as soon as you enter that first room, and you see the jar where Mother Brain was, and you're just like, oh man, this is the boss from the first game. Like and then you're just thinking like, is there gonna be a boss in here already? So the game is already just like setting up these expectations and then just also kind of tossing them out the window at the same time. Chris, you got anything about the story? Any tingling feelings that this opening gave you? Are you just cold hearted?
I think it's well done. I think it's something that Metroid excels at in general, because even though there's not a lot of text, you only get that first blurb at the beginning saying the last Metroid is in captivity, and from there shit hits the fan. Yeah, it's. I think it's great. I think it does music and the visuals and all that. I think it does it in a very great way.
Yeah, I do think it's kind of, and I think this is why I didn't like Fusion that much either, is that there was a lot more dialogue in it that I just didn't really care for. This is also kind of something I brought up in my Symphony of the Night episode, which you can hear on Patreon, patreon.com/the main quest, in that I don't really care for story in a lot of Samus clone games. And Castlevania is definitely one of those games where the lore and there's so many characters and it's just so compact and dense and asinine as hell. Like, and then it's like you're roaming around Dracula's castle in Symphony of the Night for, an hour or two. And then all of a sudden Maria shows up and then she starts talking about castles and in the moon or whatever. I don't know what the hell they're talking about. I'm like, I don't know what's going on. I just want to play the game. And that's what I appreciated about Super Metroid still to this day, that it's just, you're not being interrupted. You're just playing in the game. You're just settled into the atmosphere and you're just going.
I think you just helped me realize why I hate Dawn of Sorrow. They talk so fucking much, and it's anime bullshit. Like that game goes nowhere quick.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. That's all the Castlevania games, like at least the Igarashi era Castlevania games.
Y'all are out of your minds.
I think you should try Dawn of Sorrow. Dawn of Sorrow is oh man,
I love Dawn of Sorrow.
Seriously?
Yeah, that's one of my favorite Igarashi.
Rules. Have we talked about Aria on the Game Boy Advance is incredible. It's 10 out of 10.
Oh, Aria.
Overrated.
Yeah. Dawn, I think Aria is the better of the two games.
Dawn is okay. I do love Portrait of Ruin and Order of Ecclesia, but Dawn, holy.
Well, we can fight about this on another podcast.
That's fair. I mean, Chris having very wrong takes. Keith having, why am I blaming Chris? Keith having very wrong takes about very good games is not surprising to anybody. So we'll get back to that.
You can hear me talk about Aria of Sorrow on somebody else's podcast.
That's true.
Yeah.
So just look it up. You can use Google. One note I had here about the story here. And it kind of ties into Super Metroid 2. Metroid 2. And I don't know if this is said in the big block of text at the beginning of Super Metroid, but in the manual it says that the scientists on the colony discovered that the Metroids may have originally been created for peaceful purposes. Good thing Samus killed them all.
Look, we can't negotiate the politics of this, right? No politics in video games. God forbid.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. What I like about the story of this game is that, like, again, it's no nonsense. I disagree that the story is a hindrance in Fusion. I think it's one of the best things about Fusion, besides the exploration being condensed but still interesting. But this isn't a Fusion podcast. But I do like that how in Super Metroid story, like they let you hit the bricks pretty quick. Like you just hit the ground running, and that all of the other narrative is through moments of boss fights or enemy encounters or encountering, Ridley again later, Mother Brain near the end of the game, all of that, right? Like all of those moments. Like I think of the Crocomire fight as one of my favorites. Like up until that game, you are obliterating everything. You're just shooting it till it dies. And Crocomire takes damage the same way. Narratively, there's no reason to believe he's different. But then you realize, well, I'm getting pushed to a wall and this guy isn't dying. And it's not until you figure out the mechanics and all of that. We can get into that more when we talk about the gameplay. But like the end of that fight, you push him into the lava, he dies, turns to bones. And then he comes flying through the wall the other way and falls apart as a skeleton. Like that jump scare got me, like I jumped out of my seat the first time I saw that, right? Like that kind of momentum and narrative storytelling through actions and of showing us stuff. It's a lot of show and don't tell, and I love it. I do like narrative in my search action games, unlike a certain host of this podcast. But I do agree that this game really streamlines the narrative through the moments. And that is still the primary factor of the Metroid games, even those other games you've mentioned, Keith, whether you like the story or not. For the most part, even though there is dialogue, the biggest moments of those games happen through the boss battles and what you encounter and what you see, right? And I think that's like the story-wise, the thing that the Metroid games have always done well is like showing you what's going to happen instead of telling you, here's, like, usually it's a credits crawl at the beginning of most of the games, but for the most part, once you're playing, the majority of the game is you just doing the thing, which is pretty awesome.
Yeah, I'm definitely more in the camp of the show don't tell.
Mm-hmm.
I think a lot of video games suffer from over explaining and holding your hand a little bit too much. They don't trust their player. They don't trust the audience. And that's something that I've criticized like a game like Bloodborne for, where they, and I think a lot of those games, they do a little bit too much showing and not any telling at all. Like you could at least put something in there.
Yeah, that's a
that's
a Dark Soulsborne thing.
Yeah.
Like that's never going to change.
Whereas I think like a game like Super Metroid is somewhere like kind of like a happy medium where it's just like, it's not beating you over the head with dialogue, but it's also just like not telling you anything. And to be fair, the game is front loaded with story. I mean, again, you get a big block of text of Samus putting in a voice memo. It's not a voice memo, but she's like entering a journal entry or something like that about the last expedition and stuff like that. I was going to go somewhere else with this, but I don't remember. You bringing up, Crocomire and the jump scares and stuff. And that's definitely not like the first jump scare in this game either. You get the Chozo statue comes to life.
Oh, that's right.
Oh,
yes. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Totally bucks everything from the previous games because anytime you've encountered a Chozo statue in those other games, you just get an item. But this time the door locks behind you and then you're sitting there and you're like, what's going on? And then suddenly the statue starts to crumble and then it stands up and you're just like, oh shit, and now you're scared to go in any Chozo room.
Yeah. I love when these kinds of games do that. Castlevania does that a couple times too in various games where like something you're used to always seeing or getting. I think it's in Symphony of the Night. There's like the save caskets. There's one that you get into and like it warps you to another world or like a nightmare or something, right? Like it's like, I love when games do that. And you can bet your ass the first time I did a real playthrough of Super Metroid and I fought that Chozo statue, every other Chozo statue room I went into, I was like, wait, is it going to come to life? Wait, what's happening? And then the one that like takes you through the spikes later, I'm like, oh God, I'm going to die. And then it's just helping you get to another area. Like, I love that. I love how they mess with expectations also through the showing of the story.
And then later on, you get the one that catches your missiles and then throws it back at you.
So awesome.
Yeah, it's fun. I think the boss fights in this game are pretty great. Having them be included into the world, like having a section of the world being gated off until you kill all of the boss fights. And then them having certain ways, well, particularly one of them, there's a way that you can kill them instantly. And it's just great. Like, how do you even figure out how to do that? And when you do, it's like, holy shit, I can do it this way. I think the first time that I fought it, I didn't have enough energy tanks, so I died trying to kill it by doing the trick. But, oh, man, it's as many gripes as I have with the game is fantastic.
Let's get into the gameplay. Let's talk about some of the secrets that this game holds that may not directly tell you without you actually going somewhere else to find it. And as I said at the top of the episode, there's really like no way I can talk about this game in like a critical manner. Like, man, I when I played it, I tried. I also like, keep in mind, I haven't played this game like vanilla in probably like 20 years. I don't think I've had a vanilla playthrough of this in like 20 years. I'm always breaking it somehow. I maybe should have tried to do a vanilla playthrough for this podcast, but like, I don't want to. so I didn't. So I really don't know it. I was kind of intimidated to come into this podcast and talk to you guys about this because I didn't know exactly how to present the gameplay here. So I guess I just want to get, I can already smell what you two are throwing down here. I guess my question to you guys is, when you sat down to play Super Metroid for the show, for better or worse, what stood out to you the most about how it feels to play? Like, was it the controls? Did the exploration stand out? The combat? Like, what was the first thing that really grabbed you? I'll start with you, Chris.
I'm gonna have to say I said it earlier. The exploration is great. When it flows perfectly. Like when you're nonstop just progressing, it's great. However, I do hate the way that Samus feels when she moves. The jumping, everything feels floaty. It feels like you're controlling a puppet in a weird, awful way. And also, I didn't remap the buttons. I played it on Steam Deck. I didn't remap the buttons, so I played with the OG controls. So shooting at the Y button on the Steam Deck was really, really confusing for a long time. So
that sounds like a you problem.
Yeah, so I would.
Yeah.
I would, and then I would keep cycling the missile. So I thought I was shooting a missile, and I just had like the visor on, and I was trying to jump, and Samus would just start looking up and down. I'm like, this game sucks. It's so bad gameplay wise. But I feel like with updated controls, if I would have taken my time and just changed the controls and made them to where they feel more modern to me and more normal to what I'm used to, I think I would have had a better time. And I think the way that I played on the 3DS, it also has those weird controls from the original Super Nintendo. So it's I don't know. Like
I mean, why? Because you can go into the menu at any time and change those controls. I mean,
Yep,
why did you keep doing that
on
to
the original
yourself?
SNES? You can remap.
Because I didn't know that was the thing. I didn't even look for that.
Well,
Yeah.
all right.
I've always said that this game would benefit from a remake on one of the Game Boy game engines, with the either Fusion or Zero Mission. It would benefit from that, because I feel like those are the best ways that Metroid have ever felt to play. And like I've looked for remakes of it, and I've looked for ROM hacks, and they're all just Super Metroid ROM hack. Here's Samus doing something different, or here's some other character from the Metroid series doing something different, and it's still the same type of gameplay, the same floaty, feely controls, and it just that's probably the biggest thing that irks me about the game, apart from Meridia, because man, when you get stuck there, you get stuck. There's
Okay, so aside from the controls, which I mean you totally could have fixed,
could have
just the move. So you don't like the way Samus moves.
I don't like the way she feels when she moves. She feels heavy and tanky and not nimble like she does on all her other games.
Matt, what grabbed you about Super Metroid though when you played it?
So I think what hurt my playthrough a little bit. So I'm not to quite the extreme as Chris is. For one, I did reassign the buttons, but so as I had said earlier, and it seems like Chris is doing the same, which is very funny that we separately, not speaking to each other, basically on the same journey. I played Zero Mission and then the remake on 3DS of Samus Returns before playing this game, because I'm not playing the original Metroid or the Game Boy Samus Returns. I'd rather throw my computer out a window, and I don't want to do that. I need my computer. So having played those two, where Samus controls great, because even with your issues with the 3DS remake, which a lot of folks have, although I don't agree with, it does control really well. There are other things that are issues with it, but it controls really well. So then coming back to Super Metroid, which controls better than 1 and 2, the original, but doesn't control as good as those games, I felt that stiffness. Now, I'll admit the moment-to-moment gameplay and exploration, I thought Samus felt okay. A little stiff compared to those other games, but not unplayable. For me, the real struggle is with certain power-ups, not having a ledge grab. The wall jump sucks in this game. I don't care how good you are at it.
Thank you.
I don't care how people have mastered it. It is not intuitive. It doesn't work every time. And the space jump is the same. Even the screw attack, it's not terrible, but it's not great. It gets better once they get to fusion. But the screw attack is also inconsistent. Do you have to rocket back and forth? Can you just go straight up? Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. So those were my biggest struggles. Exploration wise, I agree. It's so fun to play in this world, except Meridia. I happen to love the ghost ship. I think that's one of the coolest areas in the entire game. It's kind of pointless, but I like that area. It's ominous. It's fun. I like Fantoon, even though he's a mediocre boss at best. But I really think that the exploration and most of the combat in this game is pretty streamlined and fun. You can shoot at an angle, which thank God, because in the first 2 games, that was probably the worst part, is that you couldn't actually shoot at a damn angle. And that the shoulder buttons let you hold it at the angle.
You couldn't even crouch and shoot in the first game.
Nope.
Insane.
Yeah. But I agree with Chris on the broad that Samus just doesn't feel as good to control here. She will feel better in every game after. But this set the tone for that, right? She felt way worse before this game, too. And so I think that's also important to mark. But I did struggle to play the moment-to-moment gameplay, having come off those newer games, and was so excited to get to Fusion after. Because the controls I remember. But I do think it's at its worst with some of those power-ups. Just the basic exploration, it was fine. It was not awful to play. But yeah, and I think the sense of discovery is all-time in this game. I think even having not played it in 5 years, 4 years, something like that, I still remembered a lot of it. I found a lot of the secrets. A lot of the secrets are intuitive. Not all of them. Some of them are how the hell would I have ever figured that shit out? But I think that's also the fun of a Metroid game, right? Is that it's not all intuitive. I do like that some of it is a mystery that you can maybe even sometimes discover on happenstance. And I, for one, am a person who likes to use guides. I don't mind them. And I used a guide for a lot of this playthrough because I wanted to get as many missile tanks as possible. I wanted to get as much health as possible. And I still ended up with less health than I wanted by the final boss fight because I went too fast. But that's fine. Save states are a godsend when you're playing something on a timeline. But yeah, I mean, I think ultimately also because I was playing this on the Switch, on the NSO, so I had save states, I had, a rewind quality of life stuff, made this game a breeze in a way that it wouldn't have been on the original hardware. But I never save stated to like make it easier, quote unquote, although I guess you could say I did. It was mostly like, okay, I'm about to go into a boss room. I just don't want to run all the way back from the save room. I just want to take on the boss multiple times. I think there was only one boss where I got really stuck, so I did literally save state after every hit because I was at so little health and I hadn't saved in a while. But like for the most part, I didn't really do that because you don't need to in this game. It's pretty intuitive. While the Metroid games are known for their difficulty, I don't think this game is that hard. Some of it's tricky for sure, but it's not as punishing as I think even some moments in Fusion and Dread that come later. I think it is more forgiving, especially in the earlier boss battles, as it teaches you how to kind of fight the rest of the bosses throughout the game.
I think that the 3DS one is probably the hardest one.
Yes.
Because the Emmy are just cheap, but the 3DS one is just holy shit. It can get pretty unforgiving sometimes. I hate the map on Super Metroid. I hate the map so much. The Symphony of the Night did do it better because it did have, where the exits and doors and everything was marked on the map. This one is just a blob of colors to me. I get a general idea of where I can go and that's it. Because I kept running into empty hallway rooms or rooms where I had already picked up an item over and over again just because the map is not great.
That does get better as the series goes on also.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, all of this gets better as the series goes on.
That's true too.
From what I'm hearing, which is, of course, I mean, it should.
Yeah.
And if it doesn't, then that's probably a problem. But a lot for me to chew on here and digest. Going back to the way Samus feels, and again, I mean, I can't really speak about this game coming from a fresh experience anymore. Like when I come into the game, when I boot it up, I'm already thinking about shortcuts and tricks and speedrunning strats and stuff like that. Hearing your guys' gripes with this game has kind of put it into somewhat of a newer perspective for me, especially as someone who's not familiar with Fusion and the remakes. Again, I played Fusion, but I mean, it was like 3 years ago at this point, and it was mostly forgettable to me, so I can't even really compare it to Super Metroid. Kind of combining both of your gripes with Chris saying that Samus is a little too floaty, and then Matt, you talking about the space jump and the I was going to call it the spin dash.
Screw attack.
Yes, the screw attack. And that kind of being unreliable. Samus does, so like when she jumps, she does feel floaty, but then it's weird because then she, like, you would think the gravity would be consistent, so she drops like a rock. So it's like this weird inconsistency where you're like, especially when you're starting to do the screw attack, where you're like, okay, am I at the arc of my jump? Or it's hard to gauge like where that arc is because she falls so fast. Whereas like the rise to get there is a lot slower. So it kind of messes with you, I guess. Even when I was playing this as a little kid, I always kind of thought of her jump as sort of like, especially the screw attack, it's kind of like a yo-yo. It's almost similar to, though the way you pull off the screw attack is different from the cape in Super Mario World. It's kind of that same thing where it's just kind of a rhythm thing. And it's easy for me to say that as somebody who's played this game so many times, but it's just a rhythm. And like, once you get it, you're just constantly tapping that button. And I'm going to, again, push back on the wall jump thing, which I also think is incredibly cool that is available. The wall jump is not an upgrade. Whereas like in a lot of Samus clone games in the genre, the wall jump would be an upgrade. You can do it right here from the start. Like as soon as you get off the ship, you can wall jump and just get to places in the game that you're not quote unquote supposed to go to yet. And it's to the point where like you don't even need to actually zigzag across the walls. You could just keep going up the single wall. I think it's just like the speedrunners call it like the single wall dash or something like that. And it's not very, I don't think it's very hard to pull off. All you're doing is just pressing the D-pad in the opposite direction in which you're jumping.
See, that explanation sounded confusing to me. It's as confusing as trying to pull one off.
I mean, all I'm trying to say is that all of this sounds like a skill issue.
See, what it sounds like to me is if someone really loves a game, say, and they've played it a lot, say hypothetically Sonic Adventure, then they love that game and they know it really well.
All right.
Then they don't notice the flaws that someone who has only played it a few times might notice, right? If you really love a game and you play it a lot of that falls away, right? Is that what you're saying, Keith?
Yeah, but the only game that doesn't apply to is Star Fox 64 because that game is perfect and it's the greatest game of all time. So,
I mean, the first statement I agree with. The second statement's a little heavier.
Yeah, I mean, I hear your complaints, and again, I have nothing to compare that to because in all honesty, besides for the Prime series, I haven't really touched any of the other Metroid games. Mm-hmm. So it's, I don't know. I feel like there's enough especially with the wall jump. I think there's enough tells to let you know, like when you're about to pull it off. And the thing about the wall jump too, is like, you don't even really need to do it. It's not like a necessary thing in the game anyway. So the fact that you're mad that you can't do it, it doesn't matter because you don't ever have to. I understand your screw attack complaint. I totally get that it's very sensitive, especially if you're using it's pretty sensitive with just the regular Super Nintendo D-pad alone, because if you end up hitting even just slightly down or up, it cancels out Samus's jump for some reason. I can't imagine. Were you using a Pro Controller playing this on Switch?
I was
playing this handheld?
I was playing in handheld. I play most games handheld.
Okay, that sounds like a nightmare. So maybe that's why you had problems. Because even using a D-pad, it can be a little oversensitive.
It is,
Admittedly, like there are times where Samus would just all of a sudden like cancel out of her screw attack, and I'm like, what the f? And then the map, yeah, man. I'll agree with you guys 100% on the map. If I ever had to use the map anymore, I would be like, man, wow, this is a shitty map. But to be fair, at least it's here because it wasn't there in the other two games. So
yeah.
to Matt brought up exploration. Chris, you brought it up a little bit too. At any point, did you feel truly lost in this game, or did you feel like the level design was quietly nudging you along?
I definitely got lost, without a doubt. But again, I said I'm someone who doesn't mind using a guide or looking up a solution. But there were definitely moments in Meridia and some other places where I definitely got lost. But I would say 90% of the time, I didn't feel lost. 90% of the time, I was able to like figure it out based on the space I was in or looking at the map. So I would say that I never got so lost that it was frustrating, but also I wouldn't let myself like fumble around in the dark. Eventually I would Google or pull up a walkthrough and say, all right, I'm here. Like there's got to be one of like two places I can go. I think that the Metroid games, and especially this one, I'd say it's 85 to 90% of the way there via environmental guidance. I think some of the backtracking isn't always clear, especially if you can't remember where you saw a room that made you take damage from the heat or whatever, right? Like that kind of stuff those areas aren't always marked on the map clearly. And so that can get, which they do later, like a room that's too hot later in the later games is marked that way. So you know to go back to it. Whereas in this one, it's not. And so I think those are the times that I really got lost. But I don't think it was a terribly huge problem most of the time.
I feel like it was great up until the ghost ship. Because even at the ghost ship, you can only go up or down. If you go up, you can go outside. But if you go down, you can explore more of the ship if you bomb certain areas, which the game kind of nudges you to do because, you see like ductwork that's missing chunks and it has like a solid piece. So you would know to bomb it because you can kind of see through the ductwork. You would see Samus roll through whenever you would go there in the morph ball. But then Meridia kind of has really bad hidden pathways that you can only access with the morph ball. And one of them takes you to a boss. And then at the end of that, there is a spiked room that you have to fall into a specific area to actually reach the boss of Meridia. And that I spent probably an hour and a half to 2 hours just trying to figure out that I had to jump into those spikes. Bad. Terrible. That's where the game completely lost me.
Did you have the visor yet?
Yeah, I did. But, why would I need to use the visor when the super bomb is supposed to clear out everything that, should let me continue? So I didn't think to step in between the spikes and look into the spikes to know that, okay, I have to go down there.
I can't remember. I want to say that those spikes are a different texture than the other ones, if I remember correctly. I might be misremembering, but
there's 2 blocks of spikes that are, I think they're black underneath, and then there's the one with the silver, and you're supposed to fall through the silver one. So I'm guessing, yeah, but looking at it being my second playthrough after, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 years, I wouldn't think to do that. And I wouldn't remember it either. So actually, I didn't figure that out until I looked it up and it said just jump into the spikes.
Yeah, so because I haven't played this game vanilla, I don't remember exactly how the game funnels you to each of its bosses and the upgrades and stuff like that. But Lethco earlier brought something up that I could totally agree with, where it's like, especially for me when I'm getting like the upgrades out of order and everything, that once you get like the Varia suit, for instance, and you're like, okay, now I can actually go down to Norfair, survive this heat. That opens up so many potential pathways. And to say is that like the more upgrades that you get, the more choice the world opens up more and more, the more choice paralysis you get as you get closer to the game. Ridley's lair, I think it's Lower Norfair and Torian, the last place. Those are just singular environments. Like those don't lead to any upgrades or anything. Like those are just basically levels that you have to beat. Like you never have, once you're there, you do your thing and then you leave and you never have to go back to them. It's the other 3 or 4, even the wrecked ship, you don't have to really, it's a singular thing that you have to do. Everything else, I feel like I still do get lost. So here's my thing with the thing that keeps me from speed running Super Metroid is the fact that I don't know how to actually do routing. Because every time I play the game, like I'll get the Spazer super early, and then I'll get like the super bombs like super early too. It's like those are like the 2 first things I get in the game, and then I'm like, all right, now what do I do with these? Like where do I go? So it is, for me, I do tend to get lost, but for different reasons. And I think that kind of non-linear structure and the way that the progression is gated in Super Metroid is designed so well, in my opinion, to the fact that like there is a vanilla way that the game is played. I don't remember what that is. And I know like the game obviously funnels you towards certain things in order for you to beat it, obviously. But then there's the other way that I play it, in which you can just say, this, I want to go do this stuff instead. And the game actually allows you to do it, though it never tells you or hints to you that you can do it. It's just pure exploration. And I think one of the things, you know, if I'm going to compare it to Metroid Dread, one of the things a lot of people were like, oh, yes, sequence breaking. You can do that in Dread. But like Dread, like explicitly states that you can do it and kind of shows you different ways to do it. Whereas Super Metroid doesn't show you any of that.
Yeah.
And so I think that's how the two games like differ. And, you know, I haven't played Dread, so I'm going to, you know, hold off on any opinions on that. But like the way Super Metroid does it by not really doing it at all, I think is completely genius. And I think, as far as a lot of Nintendo IP goes, they don't, you know what? I'm not even going to say Nintendo. I think a lot of modern gaming doesn't do that. I just think there's something about a lot of modern, and maybe Super Metroid broke me this way because I'm always now, when I play a brand new game, I'm always trying to break it somehow. And I think Super Metroid did that to me at an early age where I'm just like, no, I want to see if I can do this stuff early. And it's, you know, whatever. Sometimes it ruins the experience of a video game for me. That's my own fault because I want to see the ones and zeros. I want to see how a video game is working and seeing, you know, if they took my crazy ass trying to go out of bounds into consideration at any point or trying to clip through buildings or whatever. But I don't know. I just kind of went on a diatribe there. Anything else you guys got about exploration or anything you want to bounce off of me?
I mean, I think I agree that it's designed really well. I think that its flaws show from age and limitations. I think even the control complaints are probably, well, this is the best Samus has controlled to this point with this controller, with this D-pad. I really do think that like it's a path to getting better. Saying it's downright bad, I think, is oversimplifying it. I think it feels bad now for sure. And then the exploration side, I agree. I think the map's designed really well. I think that I won't say that the getting lost is all user error. I will say that though the sequence breaking and the way the game lets you kind of mess with it is absolutely a brilliant part of the design. And I think goes above and beyond even what I think the designers expected, right? They probably had some expectation, but a lot of it is just people being smarter than the people who created the game and finding things they couldn't have imagined and the legacy that's grown from that.
And I'll agree, like the X-ray visor. So I think it's a great idea. I do think it's great that they put something like that in the game because those previous two games definitely needed something like that. My biggest gripe with it is that it kind of grinds the momentum to a halt because you literally have to stop and scan a room.
Yep. It shouldn't be in the missile slot. It should be like an extension of the charge cannon or something where like you can charge and then the beam comes out as you're charging or something, right? Like it should be added to the momentum. The fact that you have to stop to use it, absolutely, you're right, kills the momentum completely.
Well, even going back to, you know, making fun of Chris for not changing his button mapping, but I totally, and it happened to me this playthrough, and it probably happens to me all the time, and I just kind of let it slide because I love this game so much. Not being able to map your power-ups to a specific button is a pain in the ass. Having to cycle through the power-ups with the select button absolutely canned. I was going to say my runs, but I've definitely lost to like Ridley a couple times because I thought I had a super missile selected or something, but I accidentally started scanning the mother for some reason with my visor. I'm like, and I gotta keep hitting select till I get to the super missiles, and it's just, that's definitely clunky, and I will 100% agree with you on that. Like, so stuff like the X-ray visor, and even just like mapping these specific power-ups to a different button, definitely needed. Now, could I go the opposite way and be like, well, screw the X-ray visor, you can just plant a super bomb and just see if there's anything opens up? Yeah, you could absolutely do that, but now you're also using a resource, which is kind of, so it's like you're damned if you do, damned if you don't type of situation. Like, do you want to stop the game dead to see if there's something in the room, or do you just want to plant a power bomb and then move on? Sorry, Chris, go ahead.
So the reason why I said that do the power bomb and just continues, because every game after Super Metroid hasn't had those empty pits that you would have to go through to continue the game. So you would basically just plant a power bomb and it would clear out everything, and it will let you see exactly what you have to do, try to get to the next upgrade or to get to the next part of the level or to go to the next screen or whatever. Because apart from the Prime games, the X-ray visor doesn't make a return. Yep. So they figured out these covered up pits are a stupid fucking idea. Which that was I just hate when I play a game and I feel like it's wasting my time, and not being able to get to the boss of Meridia because of that pit felt like the game disrespected my time and just made me waste it for no reason.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of Metroid clones are just, you're just playing a game that's a maze, right? You're just going through a maze and you're trying to find the cheese to unlock the door, or you're trying to find the key to unlock the door, or you're trying to find the upgrade to unlock the door, right? Meridia is literally a maze within a maze. Mm-hmm. And it is easily the most frustrating part of the game. And I think off air, when I was talking to you guys, I completely skipped Meridia. I killed Ridley. I killed all the bosses except for Dragoon. Dragon. Weird that he's called Dragon and Ridley's called Ridley, because Ridley's a dragon. Anyway, but I'm like, I get to I'm like, who did I miss? I'm like, I can't get to Torian yet. Who did I miss? And so I go into the statue room or whatever, and it's Dragon or whatever. And I'm like, I gotta go to Meridia. I go to Meridia, and it's like, it's just a nightmare, man. It sucks. It sucks. And the fact that I had to do it at the end of the game sucked even more. Just because, again, all of the traversal things, getting stuck in like even the various suit, or not the various suit, but the gravity. What's the suit that allows you to swim?
Gravity suit.
Can't remember off the top of my head. Is it the gravity suit? Yeah. Doesn't matter in sand.
Nope.
Still doesn't matter.
Nope. Jumping out of
so
I mean, not even that doesn't matter, but there's no consistent way to jump out of the sand. Like, you have to mash the button, but even mashing the button doesn't always work.
Yeah.
Just sometimes you get lucky and you jump out of the sand. Sometimes you don't.
Yeah, I didn't even care about all those power-ups if it meant having to go into the sand. No, I'm moving on.
And there's two very large rooms in Meridia that almost look similar, so it almost has like the same issues the first two Metroid games had, where it's like, okay, wait, which room am I in? And then you look at the map doesn't even really help you out that much. And it sucks. Again, all my homies hate Meridia. I totally get it. I will not defend that area. It's the worst part of the game.
But the boss fight is surprisingly interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, that's one of those. It's one of those situations where, like, when I get to that boss fight, I only do it one way, So, but again, you also have to have the health tanks, and for the uninitiated, there's like these electrical. I don't know what you want to call them, like these electrical circuits that you bust open with your missiles, and as Dragon goes to grab you, as he'll want to do, you use your grapple beam and connect to one of the circuits, and you basically fry him to death.
Yeah. But it also zaps the crap out of you, too.
Right.
It's so much fun, though. It's so good.
Yeah, it is.
I mean, the fight.
It's brilliant boss design.
Yeah, the fight's over in like 10 seconds. So I want to talk about the upgrades and the collectibles. Did you guys find it satisfying to find missile expansions, or was it sometimes like, do you often sometimes walk into a room and you're just like, finally, I'm going to get something, and then you're like, oh, it's a missile.
Yeah, it gets like after 120 missiles, you definitely get into, oh, it's just a missile.
Did it feel
kind of
rewarding,
territory.
or what? Did he just kind of feel like busy work?
Super bombs felt rewarding. Energy tanks definitely felt rewarding. The other tanks that refill your health after you die felt rewarding. Super missiles too, but just regular missiles. Again, after 120, it's nothing.
Yeah, I think early on they feel rewarding. Like when you only have 5.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I have 10 now. Great.
Right.
But like eventually it does feel old. But I don't know. I like finding rewards basically of any kind in the game, but I would agree, like every time it was like an energy tank or an actual like ability, I was definitely more excited than another 5 missiles.
Yeah, I think at some point, and again, this is me coming from a place of I was going to say place of privilege. I was gonna, coming from someone who's played the game for 20 years plus constantly. Missiles just kind of hit a point where it's just like diminishing returns, where it's like you could beat the game with like 100 missiles. You don't need to keep finding all of the pickups, which I think it was interesting, Matt, when you're like, yeah, I want to try and 100% it. I've never, ever, I don't think you said you wanted to try and 100% it, but I don't think I've ever.
No, because that's a lie.
No. But I don't think in my entire, tenor of playing Super Metroid have I ever been like, yeah, I want to get everything in the game. I've never done that. I don't want to do that because it's just missiles. So after a while, it's just like I don't care about this. I just want to finish the game. So I think at that point, at some point, when you're like getting to 160 missiles, it's like you don't need this anymore.
Yeah, you'll never run out.
No.
I had, I think, 135 when I fought Ridley. I had 40 when the fight was over.
I wish I remembered what my percentage of items grabbed were during my last playthrough. I didn't take a screenshot of that. It was probably like 35% or something.
I mean, I usually get like 50% in these games. I think in Dread, I got closer to 70. Like, I could see myself doing it in Fusion because it's my favorite of the series. But even then, I've never 100%ed any of the Metroid games. I've gotten close just by exploring and going back or wanting to be in the world. But for the most part, what I got is what I got when I get to the final boss. And that's that, for better or worse.
One last note that I really have here, and I guess it kind of goes back to Samus's movement because it has to deal with the combat. But again, Samus can fire in all directions now, and it's something that I kind of want to compare to the previous episode on Super Castlevania 4, where Simon can whip in all directions. Except in Super Metroid, the game is designed around Samus's combat mechanics. Castlevania 4 is not designed around Simon's combat mechanics at all. Like, Super Castlevania 4 is, for better or worse, a very easy game. Super Metroid, I think, Matt, you said it earlier, Super Metroid really isn't a tough game either. It really depends on how much you really want to actually explore the world and get those upgrades to make it easier on yourself. But was there ever a point in this game, because I never felt it in Super Castlevania 4. I mean, those bosses are incredibly easy, but at any point, like, especially during the bosses, did you ever feel like there was like any point in this where there's like a skill check almost, except for wall jumping?
I mean, I think I felt like there was a health check on some of them. Like when I got to Ridley, I still felt like I didn't have enough health, that like sometimes his damage was a lot, especially depending on how good you are at dodging certain attacks, how well you understand his pattern. But like, I don't think any of the skill checks were ever like just you don't have the gear. It's kind of get good in the same way that a lot of Souls games and other stuff, like just learning patterns, memorization, understanding strategy. Like a lot of the fights are really strategic. I don't, and by the time you get to Mother Brain, shocker, Mother Brain's the final boss of this game. The first phase of Mother Brain, I mean, is almost trivial compared to previous versions, right? But that's because there's more to come when you find the second version of Mother Brain in this, the surprise, which is one of the coolest surprises, I think, in games. Also like the story at the end with the baby coming back is now full grown and monstrous and like saves you, it sacrifices itself, all that. Like when Mother Brain after it saves you, Mother Brain destroys it and it cries, like that's an emotional moment in this game with no words. Like it feels sad that giant baby Metroid that saved you died. But like even that final Mother Brain fight, I think the only thing that drove me crazy is in the final Mother Brain fight, which he pins you against the wall before the baby Metroid saves you, there is a certain amount of damage she will do that if you don't survive, you die. I found that out the hard way. And so I had to go back and just survive the fight with more health so I could survive that beam she does that drains you of your health. I thought it's an automatic stop I always thought, because I guess I always had enough health in the past, that it's an automatic stop at like 1 square of reserve and then you stop and then you're rescued, but it's not. There is a hard number of, I think it's 6 pips maybe, that she does that you have to survive to get to that final phase. And I never knew that until this playthrough. But beyond that moment, which is clearly a health check, you need a certain amount of health at that point in the fight, I didn't really experience that with any of the other bosses.
The boss fight in the ghost ship, I hate that fight so much.
Phantoon is tough. Phantoon is tough.
Yeah, he's really hard.
Because it keeps disappearing, right?
Yeah, and
then sometimes it shows up.
Depending on what kind of missiles you throw at it, it throws out more fireballs at you.
Yep.
Right. And you can shoot some of the fireballs, right? And they disappear, or am I
they drop pickups.
going crazy?
Health and ammo.
Yeah. So I didn't get the spacer till pretty late in the game. I think I got all of the laser upgrades like really, really late when they were basically useless. I think having the spacer for that fight would do a whole lot of difference, but I just hate that fight. I like the crate fight, the Ridley fight, the one with the seahorse, and the one that you have to push into the lava. But
the seahorse,
yeah, the one that you kill with the grapple beam.
Oh, yeah, I guess it's kind of a seahorse. I never saw it that way. Yeah, I don't know what Dragon is or Dragoon, whatever he's called. I don't know what that thing is.
It just looks to me like a fat seahorse. Those are all manageable. And even Ridley, when he grabs you, you can just turn around and unload missiles into him. And that's just, it's, even though it's a little bit challenging, it's still fun. But that one was just frustrating. And I think the first time I played the game, the plant that bounces up and down and then opens, that one I just found annoying as hell.
Yeah, it's easier once you know the pattern, but it can't, like, you have to be patient with that one. If you try to rush that fight, you'll get clobbered. I did feel like that fight also, like, we're not at music yet, but the music in that fight with the plant makes it feel like a scene in a horror movie, just the creepy tune that plays. But yeah, that fight also, yeah, I think the biggest thing about Metroid as a whole, and this game especially, is if you're patient and you're methodical, you'll be fine. It's if you rush some of these fights, try to be quick, which also can be fun, that's when you will be punished the most, because a lot of these bosses have set patterns that you just have to know and avoid.
Yeah, to this day, Ridley is a son of a bitch. He's so hard. He hits so hard. Ridley is a very tough fight, I think, even if you go in with basically all your power-ups. I don't even remember how many health tanks I had going in for my last playthrough, but I mean, I died a lot on my last playthrough. I also died to Crocomire because, kind of to your point, Matt, I was trying to be speedy and I ended up just being sloppy and just missing most of my missile hits. It's so.
I think the easiest one. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, so yeah, I died to Crocomire and had to do the walk of shame back to him to kill him properly.
I was gonna say that I think the easiest one to like go fast at is Kraid.
Yes, absolutely. It's just well-timed jumps, and if
such
you
a
can
fun
get
fight.
the pattern down,
Dude, I love the fake out going into Kraid because when you go up to his boss room, there's a little mini Kraid sitting there.
Yeah, that you fight and blow away pretty
Yeah,
quickly.
and that's a callback
Kraid's fight
to the first Metroid
That's what I was
game,
going to say.
because that's you fight a Kraid is just like this little guy. It's like basically as big as Samus, and it's like I don't know. I just think that's really funny. Even to this day, I'm just like, man, fuck this little guy. And then you go and then you fight the real thing, and things get out of hand a little bit. We disagreed on many things here tonight, and agreed on a lot of things, but I'm glad that the three of us will at least walk away from this recording tonight knowing that we all hated Meridia. So there's always that.
Yeah, that's true. We'll always have Meridia.
Yeah.
Yeah, let's get into today's game, which is a game that I would like to call Ridley's Believe It or Not. I'm going to give you guys the name of a planet, and the only thing you have to do, I love Chris's reaction. You should just be cringing every single time I say the name of a game. The only thing you have to do is tell me whether or not it is a planet that exists in the Metroid franchise. That's it. Got a 50-50 shot here. There's no Scott Steiner math involved. You don't have to worry about sacrifice. These are just yes or no answers. It's as easy as that. Again, you guys are pitted against each other, and per the handicap rule here, nobody brought up the secret word. So congratulations on that. You guys are going in without a handicap. So I have two different lists for both of you. So 20 planets total. Who wants to go first?
I'll take a crack at it.
Okay, Chris. All right. Also, Matt, you could be potentially losing to another Chris. So I don't know what's going on here. I did not plan this, but here we are.
Yeah,
redemption time, buddy. All right, Chris. Your first planet is Earth.
I'm going to say yes.
That is correct. That is a planet in Metroid. Planet number 2, Aether.
No.
Aether is a planet in Metroid. I wish I wrote down which game it pops up in, but I did not do that. Google is your friend. Planet number 3, Pylos.
No.
That is correct. It is not from Metroid. Not a fake planet. These other planets I actually pulled from the Alien franchise. So
Nice.
All right.
Number 4, Vo.
No.
I'm sorry, Chris. It is a planet in Metroid. The next planet, Saturn.
No.
correct. Saturn is not a planet in
hell
Metroid.
yeah.
Does not exist. Funny enough, Earth is there, but not Saturn. KR-37.
Yes.
That is Alien. I'm
Come
sorry.
on.
Number 7 here. Arcturus.
I think that's Metroid.
Sorry.
Nice.
That is Alien. The next planet. Celeste.
Metroid.
My apologies, Chris. That is also
I'm on a roll.
that is also Alien. Things are looking up for Matt here. Number 9. K2L.
Alien.
What, so you're saying it's Metroid?
It's not Metroid. It's not Metroid.
It's not Metroid?
Yeah.
No, that is Metroid.
Yep.
And finally, the last one, Talon 4.
That's Metroid.
That is Metroid.
Yeah, I know that one.
All right, Chris.
Sweet. 3 right.
4 out of 10. How are you feeling? You feeling you can
4.
take Matt
Okay.
here?
Hell no.
Oh. All right, Matt. You got to get more than 4. I know Frankie and Jeff are listening to the podcast. They're rooting for you.
Yes. Obviously, always. in
Yeah,
my
you got
corner.
to do it for them. Are you ready, sir?
Let's do it.
Planet 1 is just simply called Planet 4.
Yes.
Sorry, that does not exist in
Off
Metroid.
to a strong start.
Does the planet Korari exist in Metroid?
No.
That is correct. You are on the board. Matt, does Jupiter exist in Metroid?
These are the worst. Who knew that the real planets would be the worst? Does Jupiter exist in Metroid? I'm going to say no.
Jupiter does exist in Metroid.
Damn.
Planet 4, Damara.
Can I ask you to spell it?
Damara. Don't start typing over there.
No. My hands are right here. I'm going to say yes. This is a Metroid.
That is Alien. I'm sorry.
Incorrect.
You got 5 more here. You've only got 1. Number 5, Dark Aether.
Yes.
That does exist. Yes, that's Metroid Prime 2. Does Mars exist in Metroid?
So now I got Jupiter wrong. So now, would you have put 2 that are correct, that are real planets? Or would you be trying to switch it up and put one that was correct and one that
I
wasn't?
had two in Chris's side, so I don't know.
Yeah. I'm going to say Mars does exist in Metroid.
It does not.
Okay.
Does Phase exist in Metroid?
Phase. Yes.
Yes, it does. With 3 more to go, you have 3 on the board. Chris is looking a little sick over there.
Oh.
I know you can win, Matt. You just need 2 more.
Number 8.
Chris is even rooting for me.
Number 8 is Elysia.
That's an alien ass planet. That's not Metroid. Damn.
That is Metroid. Number 9, ZDR.
Yes, that's a Metroid planet.
It is all tied up. 4-4, baby. Here we go. It's all come down to this.
Almost like I did it on purpose.
The last planet. Arcadia 234.
That's not a Metroid planet.
Matt, congratulations. You have won.
Pulling it out.
Yeah.
Of the
Ridley's Believe It or Not. Believe it or not. Those were planets and those weren't planets. I couldn't come up with a better name.
I swear that Mars was the planet where Samus was from. Like she lived in a colony in Mars
She's from Zebes,
Oh, before she was
right?
when she was
well,
a kid.
She was she wasn't from Zebes. She was adopted by the Chozo on
Yeah.
Zebes. But I don't know. I don't remember where she was actually born. But
I mean, we can
all
Google it.
later. And
Yeah.
no, it's fine. I won already, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
It would just mean I won by 2 points instead of 1. So I think I'm good.
She was raised on a mining colony on K2L.
Yeah, so not Mars.
Which I think K2L was brought up, wasn't it? Yeah, sure was.
Yes, it was.
Was on Chris's list. And he got it wrong.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I did.
So maybe you should know where Samus was born, sir. Hey, did you guys at least have fun? I mean, that was... There hasn't been a more electrifying tie there than at the end there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It did get that.
That's pretty great. That's pretty great.
It was fun.
Well, this has been Ridley's Believe It or Not. Already very long episode on the presentation of Super Metroid. And I'll go first. And I'm just going to say, like, I mean, I'm kind of doing this out of order because it's the Ghoulcade. So I had to, pick and choose different spooky games. So I'm not going in chronological order here of release date. This was towards the end of the NES's, the Super NES's life cycle. It was like right there. Nintendo's thinking about the N64 already. And for something that's been in development since practically the beginning of the console's life cycle, this looks so good. Everything about it is just, it's just on point as far as the presentation goes. And I still think, what Chris said in the Retro Recollections earlier, that I agree. This is like one of the best looking and sounding games on the console. One of the things I didn't mention during the development is that Sakamoto came up with the opening theme for the game in a parking lot, which reminded me of that scene in Iron Man where Jeff Bridges is yelling at that poor scientist about Tony Stark making a suit with a box of scraps and stuff in a cave. Just like, this man thought of one of the most iconic opening themes to a video game in a parking lot in his Hyundai. It's just, it's crazy. And even as the soundtrack goes, I mean, I think it does a lot of heavy lifting. Matt, you talked earlier about how kind of foreboding the soundtrack is, and how when it's not playing, it's equally as foreboding. Like, the silence speaks volumes. And even just even the sound effects, I think, is just a masterclass in sound effect design. Like, you can hear the ice beam, you can hear the doors opening and closing. Even the monster sounds are all unique, and there's subtle sound effects to the environment. You can hear the Metroid screaming down the hallway. You can hear lava bubbling, explosion sounds. I don't know. I feel like I'm just kind of rambling at this point. Matt, what do you think about the presentation of Super Metroid?
I mean, I agree. I like realism in games now, but like, I'm a pixel art junkie, and I think some of the best design work ever created is in pixel art games. We talked about this with Final Fantasy IV and with F-Zero, and this is no different. The SNES games just look great, and I love the presentation of this game. I love the way it looks. I love the way it sounds. The effective use of silence in the Metroid franchise is like some of the best effective use of silence in video game history, I think. Just the rooms you enter and you hear nothing but a Metroid chittering. You enter a room and it's dark and there's no noise, just the sound of your footsteps. I mean, I agree with everything you said. I think it looks and sounds incredible. like Samus's heroic theme in this that was like already in previous games, but the way it was composed for this game, it just takes it to another level, and they continue to build on that going forward. I am curious what sound effect you're going to use. I use that for emphasis. My money is on the Metroid chittering sound, but could be the ice beam, could be the doors opening. So I just like to throw in a curse here and there. Although I think Chris did drop the first curse of the episode in the opening minutes. So, you know.
There's
no different than the Hyperstone
then.
Heist episode.
Basically,
Oh, yeah.
yes,
Chris is
which I
gunning for a
listened to
record.
recently. Yeah.
Yeah, I got beaten, didn't I?
Raging Demon, probably.
Yeah.
It's Australians,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah. But yeah, I love the way this game looks and sounds. I think it absolutely holds up. While I have a lot of critiques about the gameplay and how the gameplay holds up, those arguments don't stand for the presentation. I think it's still one of the best looking games. And like, again, my favorite Metroid game of all time builds on this aesthetic and just makes it better. But like this one is still like the sprites are big. They look good. They're detailed. Like you didn't see that in games like this back then, right? With every game that came out on the Genesis and the SNES. Some games weren't designed that way, but this has such meticulous design for the aliens, for Samus, for the bosses, all of them articulated, detailed, many moving parts, like we said earlier. It's kind of unbelievable. Like the Kraid fight feels like it couldn't be possible on this hardware, and yet we have that gigantic monster that we're fighting. Even the evolution of the Mother Brain fight, where she becomes this basically T-Rex, pulls out of the tube, like her head goes back, like just incredible design and art direction from start to finish. So yeah, I too think it's pretty great.
Just something real quick before you go, Chris. But Matt, you talked about like those heroic themes, and compared to the earlier games, they're sparse here. You only ever really hear it when you go to the surface of the planet. And you don't hear it right away either. It's when you first land on Zebes or Zebes, it's not present. But once you get out of the wrecked ship area, you finally have all these upgrades. You feel much more powerful, and you go back to your ship when they spit you out into that opening area again. That's when it plays, and you're feeling way more powerful. You feel like you can pretty much take on anything at this point. And so I think it's also a very subtle way of like telling the player or getting the player more motivated to go do more exploration. Chris, what about you?
I think the game presentation wise is fantastic. I think it might be one of the best looking games on the Super Nintendo. And it's held up till today. It's been what, 30 years since it came out? 31 years?
Shh, don't speak
crazy
those words.
And
Yeah, I am turning to dust as we speak.
and you have games coming out pretty much on a weekly to monthly basis where they look nowhere near as good as this game does, or even sound as good as it does, because it doesn't sound like a Super Nintendo game. The steps sound like actual steps. The doors opening sound like futuristic doors opening. Everything has its own unique sound that doesn't scream Super Nintendo. I think it's a technical marvel.
Aside from, sorry,
my gripes and everything, yeah, it's definitely just incredible.
And aside from picking up items, pretty much all the sound effects in this game are diegetic. They are from within the actual world. But aside from like picking up, missiles or health pickups or whatever, and then of course grabbing an upgrade, which also probably one of the best, what do you want to call it, like fanfares next to maybe like the Zelda treasure chest opening thing,
Yep.
that synth is just so good. And going back to the opening of the game, the cold open, not even the cold open, but just like the title card, like even the title card is like so cinematic. Like the screen is panning over this darkened lab. You see bodies on the floor, and there's really nothing playing. Just like this very subtle, like ominous, like synth, but that's kind of it. And other than that, as the camera's panning over this room and these bodies, you just hear the sound of the baby Metroid chittering, and then suddenly it pans out very slowly, and then an even deeper synth plays, and then that title card drops, and it's just like, fuck, god damn it, it's perfect. It's so good. It like gives me chills even just talking about it. Yeah, man. I mean, the presentation of this game is just, it's insane. It's so good. I have a bunch of other random notes here that, I mean, it doesn't even really matter. I mean, it's just, it's fantastic. That said, at this point, all that is left for us to do is summarize our thoughts and decide if we would recommend checking out a Super Metroid in 2025. And Matt, you won the game, so you get to go first.
Wow, fun. Nice. I should enjoy that while it lasts, because it'll never happen again. I love this game. I think it's a great game. I recently guested on another podcast this year called Nostalgium Arcanum, where I talked about this game as well, which inspired me to want to replay it in the first place, and go on this 2D Metroid journey. And while it's probably at the bottom of my list of the 5 2D Metroid games I'm playing in the narrative arc, it's at the bottom, but it's by no means bad. I just like the modernizations of Samus Returns and Dread more, and I'm a sucker for GBA games in general, and nothing's, I think, going to dethrone Fusion at this point. But like, Super Metroid is still an incredibly solid title. It's one of the few games that I would hand someone and go, you want to play a video game that I grew up playing that holds up today? It's this game here. Like, there are, like, even in our chats about Final Fantasy IV and F-Zero, like, we gushed about F-Zero. But I don't know that I'd hand that to someone and go, play this racing game. It's the best racing game ever made. It still holds up today. I think it's still a fun experience today. But I think there's something really special about Super Metroid as far as an experience, especially if you're not looking to complete it or maybe even finish it, just play it. I think it's still there. Like, you can't recommend Metroid 1 or 2, I don't think. 2 is infinitely more playable than the first game. I think 2 is definitely way more solid, but I would never turn someone to Metroid 1. I would absolutely turn them to Zero Mission first. But like, if I just wanted to give someone, say someone who has a Switch and has access to all of the NSO stuff and wants to play a definitive Metroid game as a starting point, I don't want them to start with Fusion as much as I love it. I want them to start with Super Metroid. They'll either love it and finish it, or they'll go, I didn't really dig it. And I go, okay, well, now try Fusion. They improve on a lot of stuff that game had mechanically. Maybe you'll like that more, right? But I still think Super Metroid is an absolutely strong starting point. I think it's an incredibly made game with some gameplay flaws that I think are just due to limitations and age. And I highly recommend it to anyone looking to experience the Metroidvania genre. Say it now.
Nope, I'm holding that against your next game the next time you are on. No kidding.
Like, I think this is a strong starting point and something I would recommend folks to. I think in the timeline order, it still could be fun to play Zero Mission and then the Samus Returns remake, or AM2R if you're nasty. But like, this is still a strong Metroid experience, flaws and all, and absolutely worth playing today.
And Chris, you lost the game, so you get to go next.
Yeah. Honestly, I think I said it at the beginning of the episode. I am never going to play this game again from here till the day I die. Even if I do another playthrough of the Metroid series, I'm not going to play it. Do I think other people should play it. Yeah, it's definitely one of those must-play games. It's important. I feel like it's important to Nintendo's history, to the history of video games, to the history of a whole genre. And it is a good time when you're not getting stuck or frustrated. I would say if you want to play a Metroid game, play Fusion and then go from there if you like that. But it's still a pretty good game. And I did want to bring up a couple of ROM hacks for it that are pretty decent. Hyper Metroid is a ROM hack for the game. And it's basically a restructured retelling of Super Metroid. It's about 7 to 8 hours long, and it feels very modern, even though it has everything from Super Metroid gameplay wise. There's Project Base, which is basically just a restructuring of Super Metroid. It's not great, but it's still fun. Samus Combat Armor, which is basically just Metroid, but with Zero Suit Samus. Project Ravenholm, basically you're exploring a abandoned hospital with Samus. Super Metroid Ascent, Super Metroid Vitality, Ancient Chozo, Super Metroid Face On, and then there's another one which I don't see the name, but it's basically you're playing as a space pirate for the whole game. There's a lot of great ROM hacks based on Super Metroid. So just alone on that, just people making games because they love this game so much. It's pretty impressive.
Yeah, and I think that would be an easy segue for me to say whether or not I would recommend checking out Super Metroid. And that, like, it has this game's legacy and how fondly people look back on it has cultivated a community who is making ROM hacks, who are making indie games off the back of Super Metroid. And then you also have the speedrunning community, which, again, there's a huge community surrounding this game, always trying to find ways to make those runs a lot faster. And I just think that speaks volumes to what this game is and what it has done for the gaming industry as a whole. And I don't think anybody's going to be surprised by what I'm about to say, considering the discussion that we've been having tonight. But just in case people don't know, I want to make it clear that I am that person that thinks that this is the definitive Samus-like experience. Like, sure, I can hear your complaints about Samus feeling a little too floaty or a little too stiff at times, but honestly, in my opinion, I think that's a little bit nitpicky, especially if you are me and you've spent as much time with this game as I have. When I've played other games in the genre, everything has just pointed back right to Super Metroid. The level design, the mechanics, the way the story is delivered, the graphics, the music, it's all like this perfectly harmonious package. It's one of the most immersive Super Nintendo games out there. And to me, it kind of transcends a game. It's a complete experience. It has cultivated this community. And I just think no other upgrade finding platformer title has managed to top that. And for anyone who missed my Patreon episode on Symphony of the Night, patreon.com/the main quest, I compared most Super Backtroids to a pizza overloaded with toppings. A massive pizza with all these toppings, they can be fun, but they can get super messy. And Super Metroid is like the perfect pepperoni pizza. It's simple, it's focused, absolutely timeless. Other people like to pile on onions and pineapples and olives and whatever. Fine, but nothing beats the real deal. And Super Metroid to me is the real deal. I think it's the gold standard, it is the definitive game in its genre. And of course, it's an easy recommendation from me. So no surprises there.
Would Souls-like elements be pineapple or olives?
Olives, because they suck. Sorry.
Yeah, they're pretty bad.
Hot take.
As for you fellas, you two have, you're on different ends of the internet. I'm on another end of the internet. we'll start with you, Chris. Why don't you let people know where they can find you on the internet, what you do?
So I do a couple of things. I do a Novel Console, which is a podcast that I do with my wife. We are on hiatus, but we are slowly figuring out how to bring it back. So that'll happen over the next few weeks when I'm finally able to go back home, and we can record on the actual setup that I have at home. Other than that, I am buying video game collections again for consoles and stuff. So if you have video game collections or video games that you want to get rid of, just let me know. I'll pay for the shipping and everything. I usually pay around 80% price charting, depending on what you have. And if you have Nintendo games, I will buy those as fast as possible because I love Nintendo games. And I have a very loose wallet when it comes to Nintendo games. So please sell me your games.
Yeah, and I finally made good on that promise back when we did Hyperstone Heist and finally sent you those 3DS games that I had.
Yeah, those, if they haven't been up yet, they will be up on Encore. It's going to be a free giveaway sponsored by the Main Quest podcast. So all you have to do is go follow me there, hit like, listen to the Main Quest.
I'm just learning this today, folks.
Yeah, so just go and like and click on, just follow me and it'll enter you automatically on the giveaway. But if you want to listen to Keith, please listen to Keith. It would be great.
All right, cool. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, go check out our Novel Console. It's got quite the backlog there, even on your own Patreon. Also, go buy some video games. You deserve it. Treat yourself. And Matt, I don't know how anybody would not know who you are, what you do, but why don't you remind everybody?
You will get everywhere with compliments, good sir. So I've been a podcaster for over 13 years, and every time I say it out loud, I want to turn to dust. But I've been doing a lot of fun work, and my current projects are 2 video game podcasts, which were meant in near the top of the show. But I do Fun and Games with the incredible Jeff Moonen, which is a broad topic-based discussion podcast. Jeff and I cover a bunch of different topics, or we interview devs or composers. We've brought on voice actors. We've done video game, console retrospectives, genre retrospectives. We have done a Metroid retrospective, which with the incredible Alex Lavelle, which was a lot of fun. Lots of really great stuff there. And then also within that feed, we have a short form series called Side Quests, where a different host talks about a game they love and why they love it. Keith did an episode on A Link to the Past, which is really great and is worth checking out. We are coming up on, well, by the time this airs, we'll have blown past our 400th episode, which is ridiculous. We will be doing that with someone who got a shout out during the recommendation section, the retro recollections section, rather. Thrak is joining us to chat about Shantae and the Pirate's Curse for our 400th episode. So that's exciting. We do longer form episodes for every 50 episodes where Jeff, myself, and a guest talk about a game we love and why we love it. And then the other show I do is Reignite. It started as a Mass Effect play-along podcast covering the original trilogy, then moved on to Andromeda, which I had never played until we covered it. And now we are in the deeply rooted into the Dragon Age franchise. We are currently playing through Dragon Age 2. So if you like storytelling, discussing decisions, and more importantly, which fantasy characters we want to smooch, it's definitely the podcast for you. As where to find me, I'm most active on Blue Sky at djstormageddon.com. And that is also the URL to my link tree. As our friends over at Retro Hangover like to say, I don't know what the kids are using these days, but I'm still over on Linktree. If you go to www.djstormageddon.com, you'll find links to the podcast I just mentioned, the Patreon for Fun and Games, my merch store, all of my socials, my Twitch channel, literally everything that I do on the internet. So feel free to go there and check that out.
Yeah, 100%. And, everybody will know I back everything you do on the internet, Matt, and of course you as well, Chris. And, you guys wouldn't be here if I didn't care about your opinions on games and what you think about that and all the great content you put out and all of that stuff. I'll champion everything you guys do. That's why you're here. That's why I love you guys. And all of those links, of course, to everything that they do will be in the show notes too. So all that's left for me to do is, hey, thank you guys one last time. Concluding the Ghoulcade here. It probably the best way I could have probably imagined. A big 2.5 hour banger here. So thanks again, guys. Thanks for your time.
Thanks for having me. Always a pleasure, and feel honored to be a part of the Ghoulcade finally.
Definitely always fun to be here.
But for now, we look ahead, and whether or not I want to talk about it, whether or not this needs to be an episode, it is happening. I don't know why it's happening. I guess by the decree of me, because I am legally obligated to follow the format of this podcast and do an episode on it. Because, of course, I grew up playing Super Mario World. So, until next time, make sure you're taking care of yourself, and always remember, it's okay to like a video game.
So, along with that pizza analogy, what are sauce-like elements? Are they olives or are they pineapples?
I'm losing you, Chris.
You didn't hear me?
Now I can hear you. Yes. Nintendo's cutting your feed.
Okay.
They don't like what you said about their game.